What's going on, guys? I'm Adamus, and today I want to give attention to the perception of the male loneliness epidemic. Recently, I went down a little TikTok rabbit hole to see what people think about this issue, and I'm sure I don't gotta tell you that they haven't really responded to it very well. And if you're still skeptical on the subject, I understand, but look no further than Japan's hikikomori population of over 1.5 million people who willfully shut their lives away from the outside world. Of course, a lot of people have their speculations on how this happened, and mostly they blame technology. But Japanese psychologist Saito Tamaki had already shed a light on the subject back in 1998 with his book Hikikomori: Adolescence Without End. And really quick, I just want to say, I don't wish anything ill upon the people in these clips. Please do not harass these people. All I'm trying to do here is educate as well as give support to anybody who suffers from prolonged loneliness. With all that said, let's go see what TikTok thinks about male loneliness.
Whenever I hear about the male loneliness epidemic, I think about something my therapist has said to me so many times. And he refers to a book every time he talks about this. I don't know what book it is, but maybe someone could tell me. It's about how historically women have always had to have endless empathy for men at all times, and we were never allowed to express it. And every single time he talks about this, he would tell me about how in the 50s and the 40s, women would snap and flip out on their husbands, and that's when they would get thrown into like an insane asylum. Because like all women, I often talk about how I feel guilty for having a legitimate reaction to something a male did to me that I then have to coddle them so they don't feel bad about it. Since we're all collectively deciding to no longer be endlessly empathetic, we can maybe put all the men who complain about the loneliness epidemic in the insane asylums. Bring them back just for that purpose. Oh no, it's the consequences of your own actions.
I don't even know where to begin on that one. I'm trying to figure out why a therapist would bring that up during a session. It just seems really counterproductive to tell your client certain information to fuel their anger towards the other side. So to show that I'm not biased, I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge what she was talking about. So back in the 1850s and 1900s, women were admitted to mental hospitals for behavior that was quote unquote disagreeable to men. And the standards to be admitted back then were much lower than what they are today. We're talking about a time frame 60 years before women even got the right to vote. But no, I don't believe that is the consequences of men's actions. You as a man are not to be held accountable for something that happened back then. Her response is literally what happened in Attack on Titan, when Gabi was trying to make Kaya feel bad for what happened a century ago. And a lot of this talk is what makes men keep their heads down. And of course, you're thinking to yourself, well, if it's got nothing to do to you, why are you going to make a big deal about it? But the thing is, I don't know the people who I see around, let's say the grocery store. I don't know if someone's constantly looking behind their back in paranoia because of their trauma. And I definitely don't want to be the reason why they feel uncomfortable. And I definitely know a lot of people can relate to keeping their head down at the gym. Otherwise, they're going to end up on TikTok and pray that Joey Swole's going to come and save their ass. But I'm glad that society has come forward and standards to be thrown into a mental asylum are much higher than what they used to be. If you feel you suffer from a prolonged sense of loneliness, or even if you feel like you've developed any sort of mental condition, please seek therapy or even psychiatric help. But in her case, she's either missing the point of therapy or it's time to find a new therapist. Up next, I have someone who is explaining his side of male loneliness, and I know his story is a common one as well.
I've been feeling rather upset lately about my not being in a relationship. I'll go to like family parties and basically my entire family's either engaged or getting married now. I see people having children, I see people making a lot more money than me and having much more success, and it's not like I need that necessarily, but I would like to have something going for my life, and I keep trying to do my own thing, but the fact that I can't keep a consistent source of social relationships going, and I did have that for a while, but then, one person will get into a relationship, so I won't see them anymore, another couple people move away, and pretty soon my whole fucking group of friends that I can talk to on a regular basis is just fucking gone.
So first off, I'm going to point out that that is not easy what this man just did. It's embarrassing. We live the lifestyles that others get roasted for all over the internet. And while I'm sure so many people will be like, what are you talking about? That's not me. I would never live that kind of lifestyle. Meanwhile, this man just straight up says, yeah, you're describing me and this is what I look like. So the big thing I want to tackle first off is this man clearly shows his reliance on others for his own mental health. I know it sucks to hear, but I promise you, you can find content in your own presence. You can find happiness in your own presence. The biggest reason why you feel like that's not possible is because you simply do not like who you are. And I'm sorry to say, if you don't love yourself as a person, then how is anyone else going to do that? Before you go around starting relationships with others, maybe you should first nourish the one that you have with yourself. Learn how to take care of yourself. Groom yourself. Maybe you've got dark circles around your eyes. Maybe you're always so grouchy and irritable, and all you need is just 2 little gummies of multivitamins a day, and suddenly you start feeling a lot better. You really just got to learn how to get to know yourself. What does your body need to achieve its peak performance or just to function normally? I'm legitimately just spitballing here, but it's up to you to figure out what you need. Do you have back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain? Maybe you need to go look at a muscle anatomy graph to see, hey, this hurts back here. What muscle is that called? Then you find out what workouts you need to do in order to strengthen those areas, and suddenly, bam, your posture's much better. You're standing up better, and the pain's gone. Another thing he was talking about was how he felt like he was falling behind in life because he was looking all around him. He saw his other family members, they were getting married, they were successful, and he didn't have much going on in his life. I'm here to tell you to stop worrying about that. When you're ready, you'll get there as well. Don't worry about how early or how late you're gonna get there. All that matters is that you're going to get there someday. And for some reason, he thinks that he can't do his own thing because he can't hold on to social relationships, when the only social relationship he needs to hang on to is himself. That's it. It is just as simple as just doing something very small and being proud of yourself. Whether it be finally cleaning up your room, doing something you've been holding off for a long time, or just getting a kick-ass workout in. When you do those small little things and you just give yourself that pat on the back, it does wonders. The sad reality is that all relationships, they come and go. And some of them could even happen in just a flash. So knowing that relying on others for your happiness is just a death sentence. You can't do that to yourself. It's only going to end up with you hating other people, not being to forgive other people, not being able to forget, and you hold a grudge, and you just become an angry and bitter person that nobody wants to be around. And for the last one, we have one that you're going to be surprised of what my opinion is going to be about this. Now, as far as the population that makes up the lonely men of the world, you got 2 different types of lonely people, okay? You have people who want to get out of the rut. You have people who want to better themselves and just find a way out. And then you have people who blame the entire world for their loneliness, for their problems, and they want to take no accountability, and they partake in the gender warfare by saying that it's all women's fault. And unfortunately, these people just make us all look even worse than how we already do.
I'm so sick of getting on this app and seeing weird little white boys complaining about how women don't want them because of they're conservative and I'm 25 years old and I have a job and yet nobody wants me. Sorry, that's not enough. What do you mean? And what's really getting me is the responses, because all the general attitude towards like, oh my God, Connor's never had a girlfriend, guys. Somebody needs to date him. The male loneliness epidemic. Blah, blah, blah. But if a woman came on here and said the same thing, if a woman came on here and was like, I'm 25 and I feel like I look good and I think I'm attractive and like I have a good job and I'm really nice and blah, blah, and yet I have really bad luck with men and I just can't find a good man, the comments would be overwhelmingly negative. It would be filled with men saying, you probably already hit the wall. You probably asking for too much. Your standards are too high. You know that you need to accept the bare minimum. All of that. They would shame her and they would say, these women are just you guys want so much and blah, 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 blah. It would be her fault. But when a man gets on here, a man whom I can see through the screen is weird. I can feel this weird energy through the screen. So I can't even imagine what it's like for women who've actually met him. I'm literally watching you talk about how women don't like you and you're 25, you never had a girlfriend. I know why. I can tell you why. I'm looking at you through the screen and I can tell you exactly why. You look like if I said the wrong thing at the wrong time, you would turn around and punch a hole in the wall. I'm sorry. I can see it through the screen. I can already feel it. So if that's the impression I'm getting, I'm sure I'm not too far off from what the other women are feeling as well. And then y'all trying to put it on women like, oh, it's because these women are asking for too much these days, and these women feel like they just don't need a man. Women these days feel like they don't need a man, and they don't see any need for partnership, and they're asking for way too much, and they want men who are this and this and this and this. Yes. Yes, to everything you said, yes. Women do feel like we don't need a man because we don't. Need, it's a want, yes. Do I want one? For sure. Need, unfortunately, no. And yes, I would like a man who was this, that, and the third. X, Y, and Z. Yeah, all of it. And I have a right to that if I want it. I'm so sorry that you guys are just now learning that unfortunately being a man simply is just not enough to have a woman anymore. You're not entitled to a woman's attention or to access to her affection. You're not entitled that. Just being a man is not enough. It used to be, sure, but it's not. And honestly, let me retract the last statement, because it was never enough to just be a man to get a woman. Even back in the day, even back way back in the day, if you wanted a wife, you had to go to her daddy's house and pay a dowry for her. You wouldn't be able to marry this woman and you don't got no job and no house and no prospect, no land, nothing. That's never been the vibe. The vibe has never been, if you're born a man, bam, you get a woman. That's never been it, at least not over here, and it's certainly not it now. So I'm so sorry to all these poor little souls who have been led astray by this red pill content that has convinced them that when you turn 35, it'll be easy to get a woman because they're just gonna, okay, yeah, try that. I'm sorry. They're as delusional as the girls are. Just as delusional as these young girls are that can't seem to stop talking to men that don't want nothing to do with them, just as delusional as they are, these little red pill boys are more delusional than that, because they genuinely, truly believe with every fiber of their being that just by virtue of the fact that they are a man, you should want to be with them, and they shouldn't have to do anything beyond that. That should be enough. And unfortunately, that's just not the case, babe. It's just not. I'm so sick of getting...
I agree with everything that she said except for the general consensus part. The general consensus as far as the male loneliness epidemic goes is man up or I don't care, which is honestly fine. We don't need everybody to agree and to give empathy for the situation in order for it to get fixed. But other than that, she was spot on. But yeah, merely existing does not warrant you to be able to get a relationship. It might have worked like that back when you were in school, but I'd say the biggest thing that people are looking for is motivation and drive. And to give her even more credit, not once did she bring up height or attractiveness at all. And if you're thinking to yourself, oh, but women want too much these days, how are your standards looking? Some of you want that 10 out of 10 Instagram model. Meanwhile, some of you don't even know how to drive. And I'm not saying this to shame any of you, but what I'm pretty much trying to say is you got to get your priorities straight, man. If you really want to think about it really quick, if you worked a minimum wage job, took decent care of yourself, and you even used a generic hairstyle that fits with your face, you can get a girlfriend. Assuming you're not some grouch that constantly talks about how women suck and they deserve less. And of course, there are some people who, her words, they don't fit your description whatsoever. Or maybe there was a time her words did match your description, but you're not in that place in your life anymore, in which case, awesome. My favorite line in that video was when she said that she doesn't need a man. That is the confidence that you all need. None of you need a woman, just like no woman needs a man. You want a woman, but you don't need one. Sure, life would be so much better if there was a woman around your life, but on a list of things that you need, that's on the bottom of it. I'm sorry, but the person who told you that it's women's fault that you're having all these problems, they lied to you. And it's not too late to understand and accept that. It is never too late to reach your reformed arc. All it takes is a will to be better. You will get there, and you will have done it on your own.